Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be discussing the craziest day in sports history, 10-cent beer night. What's going on, people? Before we get into anything else, last week this channel hit 50 subscribers, and this week we're already up to 60, which is so awesome to see. Nothing makes me happier than seeing this channel grow. So a huge thank you to you guys. I hope you're being entertained. And if you ever have anything to say to me, feedback or whatever, just drop it down in the comment. I want you guys to enjoy the content, but I also want you to know that I'm easy to reach out to for anything. I'm right here, like I'm not very far away. So that's all for me. Now, let's get into the video. Before we start, I'll give you a quick rundown so you know the absolute roller coaster ride that we're in for. In the 1970s, the Cleveland Indians were a very, very bad baseball club. Like, historically bad. And in the gritty, dangerous city of Cleveland, which has never been a baseball utopia, fans were showing up less and less. No one was gonna pay to come see some below-average baseball. What they would pay for, however, is alcohol. Cleveland may not hold baseball close to their hearts, but boy do they love their booze. So, the Indians released a promotion of 10-cent beer night, with no limit on cups per person. How could this go wrong? And this promotion worked, too. Thousands more than expected poured into the stadium, ready to indulge in all the alcohol they could. And quickly, the game went completely off the rails, with streakers, flashers, player-fan brawls, and much more. This is the story of 10-cent beer night. Let's start with the background. Our host for the game is the Cleveland Indians, and I cannot stress how terrible the Indians were during this time period. In this 1974 season, the team is smack in the middle of a 39-year playoff drought, going on one of the worst stretches in sports history. And the city of Cleveland itself was not doing much better. Booming rates of poverty, drug abuse, and crime held the city back, giving the area a rough and tough reputation. The river in Cleveland literally caught fire on multiple occasions due to extreme pollution in the city. Then, the mayor of Cleveland's hair caught on fire. Everything was catching fire, except the Indians. They weren't that good. And combined with a struggling city, that led to some of the worst fan attendance in the MLB. That's until the Indians lost a road game against the Texas Rangers. The game included a benches clearing brawl, and not like today where everyone just runs out for fun to do nothing. I'm talking punches thrown, chaotic fight. This led to some Rangers fans throwing beer and food all over Indians players. And for this, Indians fans wanted revenge. Rangers manager Billy Martin was asked after the game if he feared any sort of retaliation from Cleveland fans. Martin said he didn't worry about retaliation because, quote, they don't have enough fans there to worry about. The fuse was lit. Cleveland was angry. So, just 6 days later, when the Rangers came to town, the Indians front office let out a promotion for the game that no pissed off Clevelander could resist. 10-cent beer night. The premise was simple. A huge discount to cut the price of a single beer to just 10 cents. Records vary on exactly how big these cups were. Some say 8 ounces, some say 12. But what's important is that these were full-size beers. They weren't making them smaller. Fans were getting a normal beer for just 10 cents. And if you didn't think the idea was dumb enough, here's the kicker. There was no limit on how many cups anyone could buy. The stadium was not keeping track or cutting anyone off tonight. The only rule was that one person could only order 6 beers at a time. So, as you may imagine, people were filling their arms with 6 beers for about $50, using all 6, and coming back to get 6 more. And I say using because a lot of these beers were not drank. They were used as projectiles. So why don't we get into the game itself, and what made this the craziest day in sports history. The promotion worked. For just a single dollar, fans could spend 50 cents on a nosebleed ticket and get 5 beers too. It was the easiest, cheapest way to get alcohol in the city that night. This brought a crowd of rampant, party-hungry 18 to 23-year-olds who could care less about baseball. One fan was quoted saying, "I wasn't there for baseball. I was there to drink. It was cheaper than my bar that night." For many fans in attendance, this was less of a baseball game and more of a festivity. This season, the Indians had averaged about 7,500 people a game. On this day, over 25,000 people piled into the stadium. This game, from almost 50 years ago, had more fans than the Indians averaged in 2018. Before the game even began, fans were willing to spend nickels and dimes on all they could drink. As 25,000 began to intoxicate themselves, 9 innings of absolute hell was about to boil over. Early in the second inning, fans started to get a taste of where this game was going. A middle-aged woman jumped down onto the field, ran right in front of the Indians' dugout, and pulled up her shirt, flashing everyone who could see. While umpire Nestor Shylak tried to remove the woman from the field, she tried to kiss him repeatedly. Just minutes later, a father-son duo would come sprinting through the outfield. Posting up for all to see, the two men turned and pulled their pants down, mooning the entire outfield audience. These acts were both met with eruptions of cheering from thousands of drunk fans. Another fan, completely butt naked, hopped the fence directly in front of Rangers first baseman Mike Hargrove.
I'll never forget, he tried to get over the fence and he had no 2 black socks, and when he came down, the cop had one sock in his hand and the other sock was on the guy's foot.
The naked man slid into second base and was removed from the field of play. In just under an hour, Cleveland Municipal Stadium had become a madhouse. It was only made worse by the lack of security that Cleveland had for the game. The Indians expected 10,000 fans and hired security to contain that many. Not only was there over double that many people, at 25,000 fans, but these people had access to extreme amounts of alcohol, making them near uncontrollable. By the third inning, the score was 3-1 Rangers, although I'm guessing only about 20% of the stadium knew that. Because trouble was brewing at the beer stands. Get it? Like beer brewing, trouble brewing, the beer stand? Never mind. Now, just like security, these beer stands were severely undermanned. And I don't mean undermanned as in you're gonna have to wait long times. I mean the entire park was ordering from a beer stand ran by 2 high school girls. As one girl tried to collect money and the other poured drinks, things got out of hand quickly. When the forming mob wanted their cheap beer fast, they launched a table over the stand at the 2 teenage girls. The girls both got their stuff and left the stand unattended as the mob reined in. 10-cent beer night was now free beer night. Fans poured all the beer they could, many skipping the cup and dumping the tap straight into their mouth. At this point, you may be wondering why I'm not showing you any footage of the game or any of these crazy events that took place. This is because if it even exists, the footage was locked up, vaulted, and wiped away by the MLB, who did everything they could to bury every memory of this game. We have a few short clips, but other than that, radio and television broadcasts are completely unheard of, making this a piece of lost media. Into the 5th inning, the score was something like 5-1, I think, but no one really cared anymore. All control was lost long ago, but this was the time when the players started to truly fear for their own safety. Until this point, both teams had enjoyed and played into the drunk crowd, growing used to seeing a naked streaker run by them. But now, some 20 fans were storming the field, running around in circles frantically, with not enough force to stop them. Soon, fans began throwing cherry bombs inside of the Rangers' dugout, along with full cups of beer, because it's not like they cost money anymore. Some reports say that marijuana smoke filled the stadium so thick, people thought it was fog. I just feel the need to remind you guys that this all actually happened. This is true. This was no longer fans watching a ball game. It was a group of inebriated animals, thirsty for beer and chaos. At this point, We had food and alcohol raining down, over 30 streakers, and of course, still dudes bombing straight from the tap. For a small amount of time, the drunks actually took over that stadium. There was not enough to stop them, and there was no control. They ran that game, but not for long. One man hopped the outfield fence in the middle of play and sprinted straight towards Rangers outfielder Jeff Barrows in hopes of snagging his hat. The man grabbed the hat off Barrows' head and fumbled it to the ground. When he bent over to pick it up, Barrows picked up his foot and stomped on the streaker. Pandemonium ensued. Groups of fans bolted onto the field, feeling some sort of attack coming. And fearing for their players' lives, the Texas Rangers' entire team stormed out of the dugout wielding bats to defend themselves from this mob. Seeing the Rangers players struggling, the Indians also hopped in and began fighting their own fans off to protect Rangers players. Professional athletes with bats literally squaring up against drunk Clevelanders. It's impossible to even describe the atmosphere. Thousands of young, drunk males were coming on to fight the Rangers. There was no more stopping the brawl. After taking a chair to the face, with blood pouring down, umpire Nestor Shilak called the game, an Indians forfeit. But when they announced it over the PA system, no one really wanted to listen. Fans stayed on the field as both teams were escorted far away from that stadium. But it wasn't over when the teams left. The PA system loudly asked fans to calm down, leave the field, and exit the building. Upon hearing this, the drunk fans listened, apologized, and exited the ballpark. I'm just kidding. They had to bring in the SWAT team to get them out of there. Armed with tear gas and automatic weapons, the SWAT team came through. The bombs of poisonous gas finally started to take control of the crowd. The game was long gone, as were both teams. But still, the Cleveland Riot Squad was called on to relief pitch in the bottom of the ninth. Using force and riot sticks, they pushed the last few drunks out of Cleveland Municipal Stadium. The MLB did an amazing job of hiding traces of this game. But I do believe a full copy is out there somewhere. Maybe with the MLB, maybe with ESPN, maybe hidden in a bunker in Switzerland. I hope to find this footage. That's all for this video, guys. I hope now you can see why I call this the craziest day in the history of sports. And I'm glad I was able to get to tell you about this, because with so many people trying to hide it, that's what I'm here for, is to uncover it and share it with y'all. And that's it. If you're still here, make sure you like and sub, and I'll see you next week.